anything. Oh, sorry, move some stuff here. This is going to be for Thursday, June 5th, 2025. A few minutes late. Sorry about that. Things took longer than I thought to just get set, get my answers ready in my head and all that good stuff. And because of that, I don't have any shout outs ready. Time just got away from me this morning. So goes life every now and then. So we'll kick it right off and we'll get right into the questions. So, and we'll eventually get to the title of this, which is, what if you never time your workouts ever again? What will happen? So the first question is from Phil H. He says, do you plan on selling any Lynchpin test shirts in the future? That's a definite maybe, is what I would say. So if we do sell a Lynchpin test shirt in the future, the next time that it probably would be is the only test that we really, well, we do several tests over the course of the year as part of like the programming when they work in, but the only test that like we're going to probably repeat each year as an event, for maybe that's a better way to say it, will be Lynchpin Test 13. And I believe that's going to go down in September. So we are in June right now, so we've got some time for that. Lynchpin Test 13, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, it's a real treat. It's a 400-meter run, 20 burpees, 400-meter run, 19 burpees, 400-meter run, 18 burpees. You see where this is going, all the way down to 400-meter run and one burpee. The cherry on top is it also says that if you have a weight vest, feel free to wear it. 20 pounds for the men and 14 for women. And so if you actually do the math, which sometimes you don't want to do in workouts, right? If you do the math, it'll come out to 5 miles of running and 210 burpees, potentially in a glorious weight vest. So that is, that's a beast. That's a bear, mental and physical. And we'll throw that down as an event in September, and we'll have some sort of swag associated with that. I don't know if the swag will be a t-shirt, a cup, a banner. I don't know what it is. I need to start to get on that to find like a cool piece of swag that I think people would like. And yeah, I'll keep you posted. Okay, Jordan. Jordan is just saying how much he displeased that wall ball and hang power clean workout the other day. You as well, me as well. I did not enjoy that at all. Okay, from Jesse. Let me move this over here. Okay, from Jesse D. Two questions. Let's start with the first one. What are the absolute key CrossFit movements and how do we perfect them on our own to set a proper foundation and prevent future injury before adding weight? Okay, so, you know, a good base moves and they build off of each other, and a lot of the stuff is found in like the classic CrossFit level 1 stuff, the nine foundational movements. I would vary from that a little bit, but it'd stick to it pretty well. Things off the top of my head, you got to work your air squat first and foremost. Work the air squat. You don't want to try to figure out your back squat or figure out your front squat before your air squat's good to go. So that's kind of right in line with the classic 9 and what they do with the level 1s and all that good stuff. So do that, and then just right in line with the level 1 stuff, shoulder press and deadlift. Those three will treat you really well. And then I would also be working on pull-up form and capacity and push-ups as well. And all those will treat you very nicely. As those improve, you can then, layer on them a little bit. For the squats, you get the front and back squat are going to be your friend. The overhead squat is amazing and challenging and all that, but if you're like paring it down to the bare minimum that you needed, work the air squat, the front squat, the back squat, get good at those, and then as your confidence and everything progresses down the line, you could work in the overhead squat as needed. So air squat for sure, when that's good front and back, not worrying about load. You work that shoulder press. Once that's good, just like they do with the level 1 and whatnot, you can add a little velocity, some hip drive, get the push press going in there. With that deadlift, from the deadlift, I would then from the deadlift go to either like the hang power clean or the power clean. I think that'd be a great progression post that as well. And, depending upon whether or not you were feeling froggy, you could just stay with the push press. Again, if we're talking like just basic movements that would get you so far, that'd be great. If you were capable and competent and wanted to try the push or split jerk, you could as well. Again, that would be up to you. But air squat, then the other squats, press, then the push press, deadlift, and then a power clean or a hang power clean. Those would be great. And if you had the capacity to do those things, you could do the thruster. You could do power cleans into thrusters. You're bringing the bar to your shoulder and getting it overhead. So yeah, if you only had the push press, you wouldn't be doing a clean and jerk, but you'd be doing a ground overhead. You could get really fit with that. And then, again, working the jerk later on if you so desire. You want to play with the barbell snatch later on, you can, but those would be like the basics right there. And how do you get better at them? Especially if you're on your own. People do it all the time. It's just one of those things, right? I think this is just if you have tons of time and, well, you either have time or you have resources, right? Do you want to spend a lot of money and offload the work to somebody else? Or do you not want to spend a lot of money and do more of the work yourself? I mean, we're speaking real, those are like the two choices. You got a ton of money, like I just don't know what to do with this money. Cool. Find yourself an hour a day, go get a personal trainer or one-on-one coach and pay them $50 to $100 an hour and they'll coach up in all those things and things will be great. If that's not a route that you want to go, then you can do it on your own. People do it all the time, but it then does require more effort on your part, more time, more dedication, more focus. You can study these movements. We did it all the time back in the day. You teach them yourself. Look at, back then it was photos. Now you look at wonderful videos of human movement. You can then, with a very light load, a barbell, an empty bar, training bar, PVC pipe, a broom handle, replicate these movements. You can film yourself on your phone. You can then compare and contrast how you look to how the ideal movement that you found on YouTube or what it should look. Where are you breaking down? You can film things in slow motion. Like there's tons of that. Obviously takes more time and more effort on your part versus you're just paying somebody else to do that labor for you. So it just depends upon what you want to do, but you can most certainly, if you really want to, you can absolutely learn these movements on your own and you can absolutely become very capable and proficient doing them on your own. People do it all the time. You just have to be patient. And it's just practice over and over and over again. Just reps over and over again. We're not worried about load and we're not worried about intensity. We're just getting in solid practice reps. And then that great mantra of mechanics, then consistency, and then intensity. That's the path that we want to be on. We don't want to be worrying about intensity before we have those other two building blocks solid. And then for, say, zone 2 training has worked well for you. You can get into the zone 5 with a lot of Lynchpin workouts since they're naturally, lend themselves well to high intensity. But I'm missing my zone 2 cardio. Which days could I stack zone 2 on without overtaxing myself? So, allow me to have a sip of caffeine. Which days could you stack them on? Almost any ones that you wanted, right? So for zone 2, let me just go ahead and oversimplify zone 2, okay? To training which is occurring at a lower level of effort, a lower heart rate, a lower intensity, however you want to phrase that. An easy way to think about it, which I think is very valuable and useful, is you are doing it at a conversational pace. You'd be able to have a conversation while you're doing it. And typically, the time domain is going to be a bit on the longer side compared to a lot of CrossFit workouts. So you're not going to be like, yeah, I did my zone 2 training today, 7 minutes at a conversational pace. Like, that's not really it. So let's say it's 30 to 60 minutes. Okay, that's sort of a time domain at a conversational pace. Now, if you would like to have some more of that in your life, how could you do that? Well, you could have done it probably yesterday, with a 30-minute run or the 60-minute ruck, but let's just take that out of the equation. It is largely, without overtaxing yourself, that part of your question or statement is a great thing that you said, because what you can handle is different than what I can handle. And if there was 7 people standing behind me, it would be different what each one of them could handle. So there's not you should add it in exactly this many times a week and you'll be fine. You're going to have to play with it a little bit and find out, how are you feeling? How are you performing in the gym? Is it affecting your sleep? Is it affecting your mood? Are you not recovering? Are you overtaxing yourself? Can you add in to zone 2 days a week and everything's wonderful and things actually, you feel great? Or is that too much and you crash and burn? Can you do a 40-minute zone 2 session after a workout one day, then go cool down and still take your full rest day on Thursday and your full rest day on Sunday so that you get days off from training, and you do that twice a week and find a nice balance? Or, we have people that like to go out on the Thursdays and Sundays, and those are the days they go out on their long, slow distance kind of a stuff, and that doesn't overtrain them. The other thing that you could pay attention to is not just adding these potential things in, but that whole modulating intensity piece. Maybe you add these things in. Maybe you're burning it down 5 days a week. Don't know. You didn't say that, but I'm going to make this assumption. You're burning it down 5 workouts a week. You're 27 years old. You recover fantastic. Every day you dance with the devil. You feel great. You never feel overtrained. Awesome. You can add in Thursdays and Sundays. You go for your long, slow distance, and everything's totally cool. Great. Maybe you're just a little bit later in life, 35 or whatever, and you can't really burn it down 5 days a week anymore. You burn it down, let's say, 3 or 4 days a week, and 1 or 2 days you hold back a little bit. And now, and that's a great place for you to be. That's your modulating intensity. That's your sweet spot that you hum as an athlete. And now you add in 2 long, slow distance sessions. In that example, there's probably a good chance that something else is going to have to give. You're going to have to give up one of those other 2 sessions, or instead of burning it down 3 or 4 days a week, you're going to burn it down 2 or 3 to give yourself an extra easy session so you can fit in this extra zone 2. So there's going to be a little bit of massaging that you can find. Another thing that you could potentially do is let's say if you're feeling froggy, you could just tack it on to a workout. So let's say you're modulating intensity, okay? And let's say out of the 5 workouts each week, you burn it down 3 times, and the other 2, you allow yourself lower intensity efforts, conversational paced efforts, because that's what phase of life you're in, and that works well for you. So on those 2 days that you're already knocking down the intensity and making it a more of a conversational pace effort. Now, yes, it's mixed modality. Probably you're not just running. You could be doing push-ups and pull-ups and some air squats or whatnot. It's mixed modality, but it's your lower intensity day, and it took 15 minutes of work. Okay. Well, since it's your low intensity day anyway, what you could do if you wanted to is once that workout ends, if you get your shoes on, take off out the door and go for a 40-minute jog. And now, even though it was mixed modality, that 15-minute session was already conversational pace, lower intensity, and now you go for a 40-minute jog. You've kind of got 55 minutes in that world sphere zone that you were talking about. So you might be able to kind of piggyback it as well. So you've got multiple options. Feel free to play and experiment with it, but please just listen to your body and make sure that you are recovering, feeling good, and all that stuff as well. Okay, here we go. This is the title of today's show. From Andrew G. It says, this one may cause a collective gasp in the CrossFit world. What if I never run the clock again? Andrew, I'm sorry. Your CrossFit credentials will be pulled and you'll be kicked out of the community. Allow me to explain myself. I have a number of nagging aches from past injuries that are not fitness related. So if I try to run the clock, it typically ends in frustration when I see that I'm way past a reasonable goal time even if I scale. I have no intention of competing or anything. I just simply want to work out and be the fittest version of me that I can be. Will I be missing out on any fitness progress if I never run the clock again? Okay, so here's my short answer. Based upon the specific details of your life that you gave me, you don't ever have to run the clock again. You'll be fine. You'll be totally fine. So there used to be this thing that we would say at the level 1. I might mess it up because it was a long time ago. But it was something like, I think we actually used to say it during the nutrition lecture when we would compare and contrast the zone diet, in which you are weighing and measuring everything that you eat. It's very accurate and very precise. You know your inputs and outputs, period, end of story. And then paleo, in which you're eating the highest quality foods available. What are the quantities? I don't know. I'm just eating these wonderful foods, and when I'm full, I'm full. And so, what we used to say is, the best of both worlds would be to eat those high quality foods, and also be aware of the quantity in which you eat them, that the two coexist. So, what are you getting from running the clock? What if you did the paleo version of what I'm talking about is high quality movements? That's what you'll be doing. You'll be doing functional movements. You're still going to be doing the workout that we prescribe each day. You're going to be deadlifting and squatting and lunging and jumping and running and sprinting and doing pull ups. Amazing, right? And it sounds like you're still going to push yourself appropriately, right? Try to get better, to drive some intensity, to drive some results. Taking rest when you need, but you're not looking to lollygag. You just aren't going to have the clock on. Will good things happen in your life, and will you be fit, fast, and strong? I tend to think the answer is yes, absolutely. What you won't know is just the comparison of this compared to the comparison of that. And you could make this argument of like, does that matter? For your goals that you're saying, I don't think that it does. What's important for you is to keep working out in a way that actually keeps you working out. Because if you stop working out due to frustration or due to whatever, well, what would you rather have somebody do? Somebody say, you have to run the clock because that's what we do. And then this person gets so frustrated that they stop working out for the next 20 years of their life. Or you say, no, make smart decisions, do these wonderful movements, push yourself intelligently when you can, and don't worry about the clock. And then 5 years later, you're still squatting and deadlifting and doing pull-ups and doing 6x400 repeats. Like, easiest answer in the world. You don't need the clock to be wonderfully fit. If you just go out and do 6x400 repeats and you make yourself hurt and you vomit at the end of it, you won't know if you vomited because you set a lifetime PR, or it was because you didn't sleep well last night, or because, like, whatever. You just won't know how did that 6x400 repeat compare to the 6x400 that you did 3 months ago. You made them both hurt. You took generally the same rest between each, but you just don't know, were you 2 seconds faster or 2 seconds slower? Does that matter for what you're talking about? No. No, it doesn't. What matters is that you're still doing 6x400 repeats. It would be like the same thing if you had like these magic weights. Okay, like magic, it's my new business plan, magic weights. There were these special weights, they're from aliens that I met, and you put them on the barbell for deadlifts, okay? And they just sink to your body, all right? There's just one plate on each side. It doesn't have any numbers on it. And it just is whatever you're supposed to lift right there. Like, it gets just progressively heavier as you keep going. So you go and you do a 5x5 deadlift, and these magic weights just make it the heaviest that you can lift safely that day. And then 2 weeks later, when you do a 5x5, it's the heaviest that you can lift safely that day. But you don't know if one day was at 350 and the next week it was 371. And then 2 weeks later, when you're like burnt out at work, it wasn't 350, it was like 335. That was appropriate. But whatever it was appropriately heavy for a 5x5 for what you were doing that day. But you couldn't get into your own head that it was 350 the first time, and today it's 335. So I'm not fit anymore, and I'm going to spiral out of control in this world of emotion for the rest of the day because my deadlift number was different. Irrelevant. Lift whatever is heavy and appropriately challenging on that day. You're great. You do Fran, you don't run the clock, you pushed yourself, you're laying on the ground contemplating your life choices afterwards, but you don't know what the time was. I have a feeling that you got the full benefit out of Fran, if that's how you did it, even though you don't know the time. So, based on what you said, I think you're totally fine, my friend. Totally fine. I don't run the clock. Out of the 5 workouts each week, I don't run the clock at least once, I can tell you that. And it wouldn't be uncommon that I don't run the clock twice a week. I think that's kind of fair too. And then I do run the clock on the other days. And that little balance, actually allows me to continue to walk in the gym for decades now and to not get burnt out and to not get inside my head and to still enjoy working out and then not forcing myself that I have to do this in this dogmatic fashion every day. When I do say, you know what I'm feeling today? I feel like I'm gonna try to burn it down. I'm feeling froggy. Let's do this. And then it's a good day. And so, I think you are, I think you are good to go. Okay, a little more drink. All right, from Meg W. I would love to hear from you about the time domain jump rope that gets programmed. For example, earlier this week we had 2 minutes of jumping rope. There's an ongoing discussion at my gym about the role of that in comparison to maybe 2 minutes of cardio or compared to X number reps of double unders. Would you say the certain time of jump rope always has the same role for you in every workout? Or is the goal sometimes to get the heart rate up, other times to tax the shoulders, other times to practice a movement that you're less skilled at? Hopefully this makes sense. Thanks for any thoughts that you can share. Okay. So what I would say first of all is well, kind of yes to all of it, really. Like if you're in there and jumping rope, it's not going to not get your heart rate up. And so ideally that was part of why you chose that. You know, it was not going to give the heart rate a break. So whether you're jumping rope for 30 seconds or you're doing 50 double unders or you're jumping rope for a minute or you're doing 100 reps of something, it's going to hit the old heart rate. And regardless whether you're jumping rope for a short period of time or a long period of time, we're still using the same musculature and muscle groups. And like you said, the shoulders start to burn, all that. So that's going to happen no matter what. Shorter number of set reps of double unders, less time for the old heart to be doing its thing, less taxing on the shoulder, longer time, more of it. So it would just be, did somebody program 30 seconds of jumping rope, 90 seconds of jumping rope, 1 minute of jumping rope, or did they program 50 double unders per this round, 100 single unders per this round, 100 double unders per this round, 75 double unders, 150 singles? Like, all of those are kind of getting us to the same place, more or less. Close enough for government work, to be really honest with you. And at the same time, yes, allowing people to practice movements. I think the allowing people to practice the taxing of the body, that happens. I mean, that if somebody's putting in a set number of double unders or a set number of single unders or a set number of whatever in a particular multi-round workout, they should have an idea as to how that affects the other elements of the workout and what that actual movement of jumping rope is going to do to the athlete, and then where they're going next after they put the jump rope down. That should be ubiquitous and the same whether the programmer chose X number of reps or X number of seconds or minutes to be jumping rope. That's kind of the same. What I think works really well, if you trust your athletes, which I do at Lynchpin, like if we program, let's say, 1 minute of jumping rope, we'll often say, challenge yourself appropriately. What's great about that is that, let's say it's 3 rounds for time, each round has 1 minute of jumping rope. So instead of saying you have to do X number of a certain type of jumping rope, you're going to jump rope for 1 minute. And now you say, challenge yourself appropriately. Now everybody can do that. Beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Your advanced athlete might be doing arm crossovers, rocking doubles the same the whole time. Somebody else has got a heavy rope doing singles. Another athlete over there is new to this whole game. They've got a speed rope. They're just trying to do as many single unders as they can in 1 minute. All one big happy family. What's cool about that is it allows your more experienced and more conditioned and more advanced athletes, let's say in this 1 minute of jumping rope example, they're going to get way more reps than the beginner or the intermediate. But they can handle way more reps and more of a systemic hit because they're far more conditioned and advanced. That beginner athlete, for example, them just trying to jump for 1 minute is going to be plenty taxing because they're not supposed to jump and then just get frustrated and stand at the clock for 20 seconds. They did a couple reps, they had a trip, they step through, they get reset. They do a couple reps, they trip, they step through, they reset, and that's how they spend their minute. That's taxing to their body and their musculature and their shoulders and their cardiorespiratory system. But since I didn't say to that person, you have to do 60 reps of this. That might take them 4.5 minutes. And so now, at least for that beginner, they're deflated, they're demotivated, they feel insignificant compared to this other person. But I can have you both there for a minute. You can do a single under. This other athlete can do running step singles, arm crossovers, heavy rope, whatever you want. And they're both going to work hard and appropriately for 1 minute. And since I didn't just say in this example that you have to do X number of reps, that new athlete will actually feel okay practicing. So you can do both things at the same time. They're training and they're practicing simultaneously, and that's really cool. It also actually lets your advanced athletes too have some fun and have some freedom because there might be steps that they want to try, but they don't try in a workout because of that wonderful clock and that wonderful leaderboard. And they know that they're really not that good at running step single unders. But you know what? They don't get programmed that much. So I'm never going to try them because I just want to beat so and so next to me. And so I'm really good at double unders, and I'm going to do double unders every darn day, and I'm never going to get outside my comfort zone, and I'm never going to try a new thing because I'm really good at these and I can beat you. Cool. It'll get you fit. That's great. But there's tremendous value in allowing that even experienced athlete the freedom to be like, just go push yourself for a minute. Take a risk, my friend. Try a totally different step. Smack yourself with the rope like you were a beginner again. Get frustrated, get through it again, and now you're just doing it for a minute, and no matter what, at a minute you move on to the next station, and you get to try running step singles. You get to try arm crossovers. You get to try whatever it is. You can do fun things where, like, you can, in your jump roping, instead of you're not just worried about hitting 50 double unders and moving on, you can make a box on the ground, like a 3 or 4 foot box, and then while you're doing singles or doubles or running step singles or whatever, you can move laterally across the box 3 feet, then move backwards while jumping the rope, then move to the other side, and then move up. Like, you can create movement in there. You can go forwards and backwards. It unlocks this freedom instead of this just jump rope that for many, many years, myself included, is very guilty of this. Pick it up, you do the same movement in roughly the same rep range all the time. That's cool. Like I said, there's value in that. It's good, but there's so much more that we can do, and there's so much more freedom. And I just think it makes it fun again for a lot of people, and you can actually practice at the same time. But yeah, we'll do both. And who would have guessed prior to this, how taxing 1 minute of continuous jumping rope can be? I mean, you see the comments all the time in Lynchpin, right? Like laughing and having fun. Like, had the jump rope was going, I thought that about, I got to knock out this 1 minute of jumping rope. Felt like about 7 years had gone by. I looked at the clock and it had only been 40 seconds. I had another darn 20 seconds to go. Holy cow. Let alone 90-second interval of jumping rope. You want to get people out of the comfort zone? A 2 minute interval of jumping rope. 2 minutes is basically an eternity, which it doesn't seem like that, right? Like, hey, is 2 continuous minutes of jumping rope hard? You're like, before you'd actually tried? You're like, no. Do you know how fit I am? Do you know my Fran time and my deadlift? How dare you ask me if I can jump rope for 2 minutes? And then you try to do it and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in the 5th ring of hell. 2 minutes of jumping rope is literally an eternity. So there's some really great things there that we can have fun and play with. And you should, I would recommend, if you haven't already, listen to the interview we did with Chris Rollins, I believe his name is, like just a jump rope guru. We did it on Very Not Random, and it was episode 205, entitled You Don't Need More Double Unders. It's another thing I would like to do and haven't made all of you do it yet, and I haven't done it yet, but it is in the back of my mind. I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. I've been doing CrossFit literally 20 years. 20 years. And most of those were just double unders. For 20 years. Do you know how many other cool skills I could have had with the jump rope if I had like a bit more freedom to do it? After 20 years? Oh my goodness. So this is not perfect, this is not exact like any modification or scale, like they're all close. But it can be a good general metric of like if you have to replace a 400-meter run to do 180, if you do want a number, here's a number, 180 running step singles, roughly for replacing a 400-meter run. Or if that 180 running step singles would take somebody like 5 minutes, the 400-meter run probably wouldn't take them 5 minutes. So you can say 2 minutes of jumping rope, for example. So there's multiple ways that you can program this. But what I was getting at is there's a challenge that I kind of have in my head that I'm oddly intrigued about, and it's like the jump rope mile, which is if you think that 180 running step singles is going to be a rough equivalent for a 400-meter run, which by the way, I've done both. I would much rather go out and jog a 400-meter run in a multi-round workout than do 180 running step singles. Any day of the week, I would rather go on that 400-meter run. But if 180 running step singles is roughly equivalent to a 400-meter run, then a mile would be 720 running step singles. And I have this odd interest to try to build up to and see how long it would take me to do the jump rope mile, to do 720 running step singles. I have a feeling that I would cover a mile faster than I would do 720 running step singles. And I also have a feeling that I would be out of breath way more than I would if I ran that mile, of course, depending on the pace. But yeah, I'm intrigued by that. So hopefully that helps. Okay. Tyler L. Pat, I absolutely love the programming. Thank you, my friend. My question is it all you, or is there a team of coaches? If it's all you, that is absolutely amazing, and I'm truly impressed. Very kind of you. I have a wonderful, wonderful person who helps me out. Two, actually, I should say. That's the right way to say it. So, for many, many years, I don't even know how long Lynchpin and Lynchpin Private Track's been around, but for the overwhelming majority of the years it's been around, yes, everything, workouts, warm-ups, like video, all that stuff. Within the last, it's probably been longer, a couple of years, I would say. So you've got the individual Lynchpin programming, which is 5 workouts a week, and we take a rest day on Thursday, and we take a rest day on Sunday, okay? And then the Lynchpin for gym owners is programming 7 days a week. Because for a gym, you just never know when people are going to be coming in, with people with different schedules, so gyms want it 7 days a week. So the Thursdays and the Sundays, which are the 2 days that apply to the gym owner's track but not to the individual Lynchpin track, those 2 days for the last probably couple of years, Matteo Pizzi, we have worked together and he programs those days. And he does an absolutely wonderful job. And he also is in charge of warm-ups. He does a fantastic job with that as well. And to be truthful, warm-ups are one of the things that are absolutely mission critical, and I wrote them for years and years and years and years. I have these ridiculous documents full of all the ideas and different ones and all this, but I never enjoyed doing them. Never enjoyed doing them. Programming the workout of the day, having it interplay with all the other workouts over the course of the 5-day training week, the various options of wild card, scaled, limited equipment, no equipment, all of that, I still do all of that. The primary workouts every single solitary day, how they flow each day, how they flow each week, how they flow over the course of months, quarters, and the whole 9 yards. And then Matteo, he does the Thursdays and the Sundays for the gyms all around the world. And he does a wonderful, wonderful job. And he does a great job making, like instructional videos for content and whatnot. And then we've got one of our gym owners over in Europe. His name's Dom from CrossFit Gladbeck, runs a fantastic affiliate. He runs classes at a gym every single solitary day of the week and has for years and years. So what he does is he creates the lesson plans, the coach's notes, if you will, specifically for the gym owner's track. And those lessons plans, those coach's notes, they help the coach understand what's going on that day, set up or organize the class as needed, and manage their time to effectively conduct the workouts in a 1-hour training session with 10 to 15 people going through the workouts. And so that's that. But yeah, the workout of the day, um, the programming of the workout of the day, figuring all that stuff out, and making the multiple workout options and all that. Yep, I've been doing that since day one, and I actually really, really enjoy it, and I don't have any intention of not doing that. It's truly I do truly enjoy it. I feel very fortunate and blessed to do that. Okay, Scott W. Scott, I'm going to admit I don't know the answer to your question. Why is running on a treadmill so much more awful than running outdoors? I did today's 30-minute workout on a treadmill due to inclement weather. Not having used a treadmill in years, I was unprepared for how much of a mental slog it was. Then I got home and parts of my body that I don't normally feel or were tired were stiff after running were certainly tired and stiff. What gives? You know, I had the same experience. I did it yesterday on an air runner. And I mean, the mental part of it, my humble opinion, I can't say this is scientific, but I always greatly enjoy running outside just because it's more interesting, it's more visually stimulating, it's less boring. It's easier to get distracted, because things are going by. You're seeing new stimulus all the time. And in my mind, that helps the time go by, quite frankly, and I can focus on other things and not focus on staring at the same point on the wall for 30 minutes as I suffer on this ridiculous machine. So I would tend to think that's, a large part of the mental thing as well. Why it hits the body different? Great question. I'm not entirely sure. And maybe it's because if you feel forced to or confined on a particular smaller belt or whatnot, that you're running in less of a natural form, maybe, and maybe that's unconscious, and by doing that, you're suddenly feeling it in places of your body that you don't normally do. But I fully agree with you, my friend. Jonas M. Hi, Pat. What is a good pace for ruck marches? I wonder if I need to push the pace a bit more. I get in a little over 5K in the 60 minutes wearing a 35-pound pack and boots. 5K, 3.1 miles with a 35-pound pack in 1 hour, so you're walking 3.1 miles an hour. I think you're kind of right where you need to be, my friend. I don't think that's a bad pace at all. I would say that I think if you're doing like 3.5 miles an hour, like a professional, like you're doing great. That's just you're out going for a ruck. That's a pretty decent clip, 3.5 miles an hour. So you're at 3.1. I think you're doing absolutely great. I wouldn't worry about that pace in any way, shape, or form, especially in boots and with a 35-pound pack on your back. I think you're solid. Okay, let's see. I intended to go out on the ruck yesterday, but then I didn't have time because that would be 60 minutes. I had to just jump on the air run and do the 30-minute run. Okay, 2 more questions. Brian T. I'd really like for you to dive in a bit on high intensity, or perhaps if it's been discussed on a prior podcast, reference that for me to listen to. Oh, I saw that this morning and I meant to get those episodes for you. I'm sure that we have, but let's chat about it for a second. I've heard you and many other coaches in the CrossFit space talk about how intensity drives results, and the definition of CrossFit includes high intensity. I just struggle with what I perceive as high intensity actually being high intensity or not. Maybe an example, assuming a max heart rate, 180 beats per minute, average athlete, what is considered high intensity, moderate, low, etc., etc. Okay. Okay, let's see. I crunched these numbers for you for a second here, but I'm sure if you went to the CrossFit Lynchpin YouTube channel, went under the Linchpin Conversations playlist and just typed in intensity, you'd probably get a ton if you typed in intensity. But I'll try to track down some of those ones for you because we have certainly chatted on this topic for sure. So you say you struggle with what you perceive as high intensity actually being high intensity or not. Okay. This is also maybe tied back to the question about timing workouts and how all these things came about for a reason and they work and they serve a function, but you can also take them to a point where you get too wrapped around the axle about them. You make them more complicated than they need to be and you get inside your own head. I'm not saying that's what's happening with you, Brian, but it's potential. So the intensity thing is also linked to the clock thing because Greg Glassman, God bless him, I think he made a very accurate and astute and intelligent observation multiple decades ago, which was most gym goers were doing isolation movements. They weren't doing compound movements. They weren't doing movements that were high power producing movements that would serve you well in sport and life. So he understood that this movement selection should change. Great. Awesome. Most people did things repetitively over and over again, stayed in their comfort zone. The variance was very low. Variance, life demands variance. So that'd be a good thing. So variance came in. Great. The other thing that was noticed was, and I was guilty of this growing up in Gold's Gym, I just, hit the elliptical for 40 minutes, do some crunches, do my chest and tries. Generally speaking, there was a lot of, you're taking these big breaks, 3 sets of this, then you do some abs, then you just, read a magazine while you are on the elliptical for 40 minutes. It's kind of low intensity training, longer time domain, low intensity. And so people needed more intensity in there because intensity garnered results and adaptation, good things happen. So these are all true statements. And one of the ways, sneaky and beautiful, to get people to work harder, aka bring more intensity to their training session, is to bring a little bit of friendly competition to that training session. Okay? So maybe that's just enough. You get a group of people together, they feel a bit froggy, and they push themselves a little harder than they would. I just bumped up the intensity. That's a nice thing. What's another way that you could do it? Another way is with this beautiful thing called the clock. So now we're not just going to be doing this same workout, all of us doing the same workout, but at the end of the workout, we're going to write that Timmy did it in 11 minutes, and Melanie did it in 9:30, and Jeff did it in 13 minutes, and Sarah did it in 10 minutes. And then we're all going to see this leaderboard, and you're going to see where you ranked out. And for a lot of people, that may or may not sit well with them. And then they try harder the next day, and that brings more intensity. So again, this is just a tool that you may not need, but a tool that served general masses well, because a lot of working out was segmented with movements that didn't have a lot of bang for your buck or low power producing movements, and people weren't working that hard. So enter intensity. You start working harder, training harder, and good things happen. Now you say you struggle with what you perceive is high intensity actually being high intensity or not. There are ways that you could measure intensity, right? Like the CrossFit definition has more of a, it may speak to the mathematical intensity, right? The force times distance over time, of the work that the athlete did, the amount of time it took to do that work. You then crunch the numbers and you can find out what was the power output of that particular workout session in watts, joules, horsepower, whatever it happened to be. You do that workout again, your body weight is the same, your limb length is the same, the weights in the bar are the same, and you did it faster than last time, you produced more power than you did last time. So that's the benefit of the clock right there. You did it slower than last time, you produced less power than last time. It was a less intense workout. Now here's the interesting thing, that's just mathematically speaking. That doesn't take into account all the other actual real world human factors as to why one performance may be different than another performance. It's doubtful that you had the exact same quality and quantity of sleep for the 3 to 5 prior nights from workout 1, and if you repeat that workout 6 months later. Could have slept better, could have slept worse for the last 3 to 5 nights. That's a huge deal. Huge. How has your nutrition been? All the little life stressors that are adding up of family, of work obligations, those all have an energy cost that take things out of you. How is your life looking 6 months ago and how is it looking now? It's tough to measure those things, but they absolutely matter. The 2, 3, 4, 5 training sessions prior to this repeat benchmark workout, what were they last time? What were they this time? Maybe last time you did this 6 months ago was a bit easier and you went into it feeling great, or it was right after a rest day, you smashed it. And this time it wasn't right after a rest day, it was actually day 3 of training. The 2 days before that were kind of taxing, and so you went into it and you didn't quite have as much oomph, and that's why you didn't do better this time or match your time. There's so many factors. The workout was the same, but so many other things are different. But even let's say if this, when you did this repeat workout, you didn't beat your previous time. Okay, mathematically speaking, it was a lower intensity workout. That doesn't mean it's a low intensity workout. It just means it was lower mathematically speaking to the previous one. If on both of those sessions you tried really hard, I know that's not a scientific way to say it, right? Whatever you want to use. You want to use heart rate. You want to use rate of perceived exertion. You want to use whatever it is. Like most of us, if we've been working out for a while, you know when you're trying really hard and you know when you're kind of holding back. So in both of those sessions, you tried really darn hard and the time was just slower than it was last time. Well, relative to your capacity and your ability as an athlete, both of those training sessions were a high intensity effort because you were really getting after it and you were really working hard and trying hard and keeping yourself obviously safe but profoundly uncomfortable in both sessions. If you're highly uncomfortable, it's a high intensity training session. That would be my gut feeling, even if I didn't know your heart rate or I didn't know your rate of perceived exertion or whatever the metric you wanted. If you report on a polygraph and you pass it that both times were a suck fest, both times I tried really hard, man, I gave you all I had. High intensity session. Okay? Now, without worrying about our heart rate or rate of perceived exertion, why not getting back to whose question was it earlier with like the zone 2 training and all that? Again, an oversimplification, but a useful metric of what a lower intensity session is. It's conversational pace. In that session that I just mentioned a second ago, chances are if I asked you a question during that workout in which you're trying really hard, I'm like, hey, what are your plans this weekend? You're like, what? What are my plans? I'm trying to, I can't talk right now. We're having a high intensity session. If we're out there doing some low intensity work, and I go, hey, what are your plans this weekend? You go, I don't know. I might try to go out and do a bit of fishing. If you can reply like that, you're not having a high intensity training session. You're having a lower intensity training session. And so, as simple as that is, it really is the case. Now, you can measure those two things in so many different ways that you want. Again, from heart rate to mathematical intensity to rate of perceived exertion to whatever zone that you want to say that you're in. But that at the root of it, the basis, that's what we're getting at. And it's true that intensity drives results. It does. Now, like I said before, can you burn it down every single solitary day and recover and feel good? It probably depends upon whether you're 25 years old or 55 years old. Hopefully that makes sense, how frequently you can do that. But whether you're 25 or 55, intensity still drives results. So as you progress later in life, your goal is to find what's that beautiful balance of how many days a week am I going to ease back a little bit and have that lower intensity conversation so that I can get in those high intensity ones as well. But hey, I've learned I can't do it 5 days a week right now. 25 years old, maybe I can't. So this is this beautiful dance that we do over the course of our life, but intensity does drive results. I put some things into the old Googles this morning, which just might help you. And this said just for a 40-year-old male. So take that for what it's worth. There's a whole lot of other factors of, is this male conditioned? Is he deconditioned? There's a whole lot of factors. So this is not gospel. But 40-year-old male, low intensity effort if you're looking for beats per minute for heart rate, anywhere from 108 to 126. Moderate level of exertion, 126 to 144. And then higher intensity, this could be zone 4 and zone 5 if you want to go that way. Your zone 4 would be 144 to 162 beats a minute. In the top of the tier there, zone 5, 162 to 180. So maybe that is helpful to you as well. But I was going to say, the intensity does drive results because think about the opposite. And do you think you would get better? So if intensity is my 5x5 back squat session, if I, this is mathematically speaking, if I take the exact same rest periods, okay, and the whole 9 yards, and I do my 5x5 back squat, let's say there's 250 on the bar, okay, and then I'm doing either the same amount of work in a shorter period of time or more work in the same period of time. So I want to have a higher intensity session. Well, next time I do 5x5, if there's 255 on the bar compared to 250, rest period's the same, that was a higher intensity session. I moved more load in the same period of time over the same distance. Good things happen. If I moved less load, it was a lower intensity mathematical session. Okay, so now for the oversimplification of why intensity drives results, well, think about, does low intensity drive results? Not if every session is like that. Because if your goal is low intensity, like, okay, I did a 5x5 back squat at 250 pounds. I'm going to do this next month, and I'm intentionally going to do it at 240. And then next month, I'm going to intentionally do it at 230. And my goal is every month to have less weight on the bar, to have a lower intensity session. When I check back in with you 12 months later, do you think that back squat has improved or not improved? Probably not improved. But if every time you went to the track for a 1 mile run, you said, I have a goal today. I'm going to run 15 minutes slower than I did last week. And I check back in with you a year later, after this intentional low intensity training, the run probably hasn't improved. Now, it's not all or nothing. All of these factors of low, moderate, and high intensity, they coexist in this beautiful recipe, unique to where each individual is on their fitness journey to optimize and maximize their results. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, final question. Last sip of my drink. This is from Patrick S. Saturday's workout has the dreaded combination of lunges and running. I like each movement individually, but when they're both in the same workout, it seems to wreak havoc on my knees. It hurts for days. So, I'm looking for options for running that would still fit the intended stimulus of the workout. I know it's normally rowing or the bike, but I was curious about kettlebell suitcase carries for the equal time domain. I thought about this because the scaled option always says walk, jog, or run, so in a sense, it would be a weighted walk. It would certainly keep my heart rate up. Your thoughts? If not, then I would hop on the devil's strike and rowing would fatigue me for the pull-ups, etc., etc. Where the suitcase carry would fatigue me as well. What's a good option? Okay, so first of all, simple. You got a bad knee. If it hurts your knee, don't do it. So I'm glad that you're making that choice. No, that's not where pain-free is the way to be. Now that being said, for often we've got the prescribed, the wild card, and the scaled. For the scaled option, let's say that it's let's say the workout of the day is Helen, and we're at 3 rounds, 400-meter runs per round. Got the wild card option. For the scaled option, it very frequently may say something like 3 rounds of, and instead of saying 400-meter run, I'll write 3 rounds of, in place of that 400-meter run, 2 minutes of running, jogging, and or walking. And that's kind of like that 2 minutes of jumping rope thing. That's going to allow the athlete, the newer athlete who's choosing the scaled option, who maybe the 400-meter run is just out of the question right now, it might as well be a marathon. That allows them to just go out for a minute and go back for a minute. And maybe they can run or jog the whole time. Cool, awesome. And then maybe they don't cover 400 meters, maybe they cover 300 meters. Who cares? Great, awesome. Or if they are still in that phase where they can't run consistently for the whole 2 minutes, so they run for a bit, walk for a bit, run for a bit, and walk for a bit. But they get the freedom to do that. Then at a minute, they turn around, they come back. And as these things happen over the course of weeks and months, they begin to walk less during that 2 minute interval in this example and jog more. And then little by little, capacity is built. So that's why some of those things are like that. So for you, if the jogging just hurts, I wouldn't want you to even just to do that option. So I would do something else. Between what you've said right there, I have a sense of, as challenging as suitcase carries are, and they're cool, you're probably going to be better served from what you could do for moving your legs at a decent pace and what it would do to you cardiorespiratory wise to hop on that dreaded air bike. That's probably going to be what I would lean to more than the suitcase carry. I think the suitcase carry is cool. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Do it if you want to do it. Fitness freedom, my friend. You're not going to be shortchanged in your training session, but if I had to lean to one of them, in this case, I would lean to the air bike in the situation that you gave. Okay. Man, I thought that this was going to be a quick one. 55 minutes have gone by. You're just so fun to talk to. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. It is Thursday. It's a rest day as I record this. And so, wherever you are all around the world, have an absolute blast. And I will see you online.